Watch how the third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. Asia Wilson creams Lexi Hall like she did 5 times in game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. Asia Wilson doesn't like Lexi Hall. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexi Hall gets called for a foul.
Indiana Fever just watched Game 2 slip away. Not because they were outmatched, but because the refs practically handed it to the Las Vegas Aces. 41 fouls, 16 in just 1 quarter. Players being thrown to the ground, and somehow Asia Wilson walked away praised for her stat line while Lexi Hall played through a back injury she got in Game 1. This wasn't basketball. It was chaos disguised as defense. So how did the Fever even manage to fight back through all that? And what does it mean going back to Indiana? Show your support for the Fever by commenting, "Let's go, Lexi, let's go."
Take that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's one. That's one. That's one. Yeah. They ain't song and dance to me, man. I'm just grateful, man. I love basketball. I love playing with my team. So let's take a week.
How in the world did Indiana walk into Las Vegas, face the 2-time champs, deal with whistles already leaning the wrong way, and still leave with a double-digit win? Game 1 wasn't just a victory. It put the entire league on notice. The Fever went into that opener with a calm discipline you usually don't see from a young team. And right away, Kelsey Mitchell silenced any doubts by lighting up the scoreboard with a playoff career-high 34 points. Every time Vegas pressed, Indiana pushed right back. Not with flair, but with control, refusing to let the tempo get out of their hands.
Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose Game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish.
And then there was the Aces' supposed trump card. Asia Wilson, the MVP, found herself in a nightmare of a shooting night. 6 makes on 22 attempts. 6. Indiana's defense forced her into tough looks, contested everything near Theorem, and made sure she had to work for every bucket. That was the story. One team executing with surgical precision without fouling, while the powerhouse's squad couldn't buy rhythm on their own court.
In the WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up, but you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know Asia Wilson only receives
jump ball. What made it sting even more for Vegas was the context at home with the whistle bending their way, with national coverage already suggesting an easy series win. Instead, the Fever held their ground and walked out with a 16-point blowout. Fans immediately noticed the cracks. That foul count felt off even in victory. But the magnitude of Indiana's win buried the complaints. Still, that undercurrent of bias wasn't ignored. It was brushed aside because the Fever handled business regardless.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
That embarrassment fueled the Aces. A loss by 16 wasn't something they could excuse, and it's why they stormed into Game 2, determined to change the tone. The question wasn't if Vegas would respond, it was how far they'd go. But at what cost did the Aces decide to fight back? Was Game 2 even basketball? Or was it just a brawl that the referees dressed up as playoff intensity? From the opening minutes, it was clear the Aces were not interested in playing clean.
Yeah, Lexi, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. Yeah, a lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
Out throwing arms. Bodies colliding on every possession, and the officials never established control. What should have been a back-and-forth showcase for two great teams turned into 41 fouls, and the whistle never stopped cutting through the arena. 16 of those fouls came in just the third quarter, a stretch where Indiana had no chance to find rhythm. Every attempt at momentum was chopped into pieces by stoppages that seemed to favor one team consistently.
This is what happened. They cut it to 8, and they get 4 fouls in a row. That was not a foul. That was not a foul. This is crazy. 4 consecutive fouls. So from 8, it goes to 13 really quick, and the rest was history. It looks like Howard got hit in the arm by 2 players. They don't call foul. It was a shot clock. But the rest of the game were just a whole bunch of fouls being called, people flying.
Physicality wasn't occasional. It was the entire storyline. Players were shoved when cutting through the lane. Defenders used forearms instead of footwork. And more than once, someone ended up sprawled on the floor. What stood out wasn't just the number of fouls, but the way they broke the Fever's pace. This is a group that thrives in flow, that runs and shares the ball. And instead, they were dragged into a wrestling match they didn't ask for. While Vegas piled up free throws, Indiana was forced into choppy half-court sets that are the least comfortable part of their identity.
How you look at it, it looks, honestly, by some of the fouls and the way it was going, it looks like we were almost too physical, but yet at the same time, I feel like we have to be able to get that on the other end. I think, sometimes when you just look at the game as a whole, when you look at the way that it works, sometimes you manipulate it into different ways and you have smaller matchups. So, I just don't think it's really possible all the time for some of those smaller matchups to really do such a clean job of that. But hey, I'm here to hoop, so none of my business.
Lexi Hall should never have even been out there. After injuring her back in Game 1, she was listed as a game-time decision. Most players would sit, heal, and wait for the series to shift home. Instead, she taped herself up, hit the floor, and immediately got targeted by Vegas's rough style. You saw it in real time, contact after contact, bump after bump, with her landing on the hardwood more than once. Yet, against that, Hull went to the arc and drilled 5 three-pointers, tying a Fever playoff record. It wasn't clean or pretty, but it was defiant. After the game, she admitted, "I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment trying to get, our bodies as ready as we can be. We're just pushing through." That's not a highlight reel quote. That's a player who knows she's being punished, but refuses to fold.
Kept her out of that space as much as she would have wanted to. She did end up with 19 points.
7-0. Ace's run has been stopped. Sims.
Meanwhile, the national conversation didn't really focus on Hall's grit, or the Fever trying to keep their season alive. It celebrated A'ja Wilson's stats. 25 points, 9 boards, 5 steals, 2 blocks. Those were the numbers repeated everywhere. What got Injured was how she accumulated those numbers. Bullying her way into the paint, knocking people around, and benefiting from calls that Indiana never seemed to get on the other end. Fans watching called it out. Yet, the headlines framed her night as dominant. Dominant isn't the same as fair when half the opposing starters are limping away.
Crystal Young. Sims over. A'ja Wilson, she had to put some extra arc on that.
Aaliyah Boston lived that reality possession after possession. She added 10 points and pulled down 13 rebounds, but it felt like every single one came with a hit to the ribs or a shove to the back. Paint touches that should have resulted in free throws turned into no calls. What people forget is that Boston is only in her 3rd season and she's already carrying herself like a veteran. Against the Aces, she wasn't given an inch, and instead of complaining, she fought for every board. It made her box score look steady, but in truth, it was survival basketball just to tally those numbers.
Step on that note with Kelsey just having a little bit of a, they were able to contain her a little bit more. How did you feel like they were able to be successful in that regard?
The physicality won. She's like a little pinball, I know that the museum's right down the street, so sometimes I feel like she's getting pinged around everywhere.
And while the spotlight was on star names, Odyssey Sims gave Indiana a chance to even breathe. 18 points for a player constantly trying to dribble through double teams, hacks at her arms, and whistles that randomly stopped any flow she found. Sims turned half-broken possessions into baskets, only to watch the next trip down erased by yet another stoppage. You could see her frustration grow, but she never slowed. For every push Vegas delivered, Sims shot back with buckets.
The physicality is out of control, that's for sure. I mean, you can bump and grab a wide receiver in the NFL for those first 5 yards, but you can do it in the W for the whole half court. You put 2 hands on somebody like that, it should be an automatic foul. They have the freedom of movement. Freedom of movement. There's no freedom. And I'm not saying that we're not fouling too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's out of control.
The story of Game 2 wasn't that Indiana failed. It's that they weren't allowed to play their game. The grit was they're in Hull's threes, Boston's boards, Sims drives. But every surge was stomped out by a whistle or a shove. The Aces didn't expose holes in strategy. They leaned on foul-heavy chaos and rode it to victory. If you're asking how the Fever lost that game, the answer isn't who played better. It's obvious that without the interruptions, Indiana's poise and shooting could have swung things. The real question is, if Las Vegas needed help from both the whistles and brute physicality, what actually changed in their tactics to force Kelsey Mitchell out of the spotlight? If the Refs were going to tilt Game 2 in the A's direction, then how did their actual game plan change to shut Kelsey Mitchell down so completely? That was the other half of what made Game 2 different. In Game 1, she torched Las Vegas for 34 scoring in every way possible. Catch and shoot, off the dribble, attacking Theorem. By the second game, she was smothered. Her total dropped to 13, and it wasn't because she suddenly forgot how to score. The Aces came in with one goal, squeeze her until there was no space left to operate.
Now the starting point guard, and here's Hull, an early test. Great sign because her shooting has been off.
Yeah.
Mitchell, short. Hull with another offensive rebound, turn, shoot, scores. 2 of their last 3. Hull again, yes. Oh.
Put extra bodies on her sometimes, face guarding her even when she didn't have the ball. Every cut she made turned into bruises. Every screen set for her was met with an aggressive hedge. That's what changed the Fever's entire flow. Instead of letting Mitchell dictate pace and stretch the defense, Las Vegas forced the ball into different hands. Double teams funneled her passes into crowded lanes. And by the time she broke free for a clean look, it was usually late in the shot clock. It was a smart, disciplined change, but one that only looks cleaner on tape than it felt in the game.
Fever runs still. Lexi Hull has scored the last 6 points for Indiana with a couple of threes. Mitchell, good look. And she got it. Kelsey Mitchell in that first half had 9 points, but was just 1 of 5 from 3-point range. It was Lexi Hull doing the damage from 3, and now she's doing a Kelsey Mitchell imitation of the night. Sims gets the roll.
Ironically, even Becky Hammond complained afterward about the physical nature of the matchup. Think about that. The Aces had just been rewarded all night by a whistle that stopped and started the game in their favor. Yet their own coach wasn't thrilled with how raw it got. That detail matters because it shows the result didn't ride only on a tactical plan. It was also shaped almost entirely by chaotic officiating decisions. The A's pressure on Mitchell worked, but the distractions clouded any fair measure of how effective those adjustments actually were. Inside, Aaliyah Boston still fought. 10 points, 13 rebounds. Another tough night where she played more like a linebacker crashing bodies than a center working out of the post. But Vegas did something clever here, too. They stretched the floor. They pulled her out of position, created mismatches that let A'ja Wilson and Jackie Young attack, without a true counter on the help side.
I just asked you to look forward to this series going to your home court in Indianapolis. How much is that really going to make a difference in this series, and how much does it mean to you guys to have that home court advantage?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Our fans, they show up and they show out, and so for us just using that, our own energy, but also using the energy in the crowd, I think it's going to be really great for us.
Out the starting point guard and here's, and then there's Lexi Hull. The Aces may have succeeded in erasing Mitchell Ferrone night, but they couldn't stop Hull. Remember, she just injured her back in Game 1. She was a game-time decision, barely cleared to take the floor. Not only did she suit up, she drilled 5 threes and tied the Fever playoff record. That's not a fluke. That's mental toughness, and the exact proof that Indiana refuses to quit even when undermanned.
Yeah, we're excited. I know the last time it was the first playoff game in a really long time, so to be able to have 2 more for our fans that have been there with us all season, really excited for that, and we definitely do feed off of their energy, so we're really looking forward to it.
Yes, Las Vegas scored their adjustments. They executed a plan. They leaned on the whistle, and they walked off with the win. But now the board changes. The next time they play, it won't be in Vegas. It's in Indianapolis, where the Aces won't just face Mitchell, Boston, and Hull. They'll face 17,000 fans who smell blood and plan to be louder than any whistle. What happens when a team that's been roughed up, whistled out of rhythm, and nearly injured on the road finally gets to walk back into their own building? That's what the Indiana Fever are about to find out as the series shifts to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. After 2 bruising games in Las Vegas, where energy in the arena and questionable whistles tilted things toward the Aces, now the dynamic flips. The Fever finally get to step into a place that feels like theirs, where every bucket from Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell is amplified by thousands of voices instead of drowned out.
Yeah, Lexi, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. Yeah, a lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
Gainbridge has already proven it's more than just a home court. This seasonal one, we've seen opposing teams stumble in the second half as the noise level kept building. The same momentum swings that evaporated in Vegas come alive in Indy. There are no dead moments at Gainbridge. Crowds stay loud through runs, through fouls, through missed calls. And while Vegas used crowd energy to fuel their Game 2 victory, now it's Indiana's turn. Even Becky Hammond admitted, "Our experience there has not been great this season, which says a lot for a championship coach." That matters because officiating bias can't hide insolence when you've got 17,000 fans reacting to it in real time. Officials won't miss the contact on Boston's post-ups when the roar explodes at every bump. They won't ignore the body checks on hole when the crowd demands accountability. That's the underrated part of home court. You don't just get the rims and the familiarity. You get constant pressure on every decision from the people watching closest.
I just asked you to look forward to the series going to your home court in Indianapolis. How much is that really going to make a difference in this series, and how much does it mean to you guys to have that home court advantage?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Our fans, they show up and they show out, and so for us just using that, our own energy, but also using the energy in the crowd, I think it's going to be really great for us.
For the Fever, that's fuel. Lexi Hall toughed out back pain in Vegas, hitting 5 threes despite getting hacked and knocked around. Aaliyah Boston collected rebound after rebound, while absorbing more punishment than whistles reflected. Kelsey Mitchell was locked down after her Game 1 explosion, but you can sense the frustration is going to turn into something sharper at home. This is where battle scars stop weighing players down and instead become energy. We've seen it already. Earlier this year, the Fever trailed by double digits at home, only to storm back once the atmosphere turned suffocating for the opponent. That same shift is why these next 2 games aren't just standard playoff stops. Games 3 and 4 in Indianapolis are the moment the Fever turn pain into power and the Aces step into a building where every mistake gets magnified and every Fever run feels unstoppable. The Aces may have used whistles and bruises to steal Game 2, but Indiana's spirit never cracked. What happened in Las Vegas won't carry the same weight in Indianapolis. Home court is now the Fever's weapon. Loud, fearless, and impossible to ignore. Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hall both admitted after the loss that they couldn't wait to get back in front of their fans. Hall said, "Our fans, they show up and they show out." If Indiana already dismantled Vegas once on the road and still fought through chaos in Game 2, imagine what comes next with Gainbridge packed and ready. Show your support for the Fever by commenting, "Let's go Lexi." Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen and we will see you in the next